we'll do the official bit. Okay, hello, happy Monday for those of you joining us live. For those of you watching the recording, thank you for taking the time to watch the recording. Today is Global Lawyers of Canada Virtual Mentor Office Hours, and today we are joined by Mo Balogun. And Mo today is going to be sharing with you 10 things she badly wants to tell internationally trained lawyers. But just to give you a little flavor of who Mo is, Mo was called to the Nigerian bar at the age of 21, and then she was called to the Ontario bar in 2019 at the age of 23. She's obtained her Masters of Law from the University of Toronto at the age of 22, and in her own words, she is passionate about helping internationally trained lawyers and licensing candidates in and out of Canada navigate the process of becoming licensed to practice law here in Canada. She's also passionate about helping aspiring postgraduate students navigate the process of applying to graduate schools in Canada. And Mo has found her way of doing this through her very own YouTube channel, Ask Mo, which is a fantastic resource. So if you're not following Mo on YouTube, go and follow her and take a look. She does these wonderful bite-sized videos with all sorts of information, and I love watching them and I refer people to them all the time. So Mo, thank you so much for joining us. This has been on my bucket list to get you on our series to share all of your information and all of your tips with everybody, because I really do love all of your videos and the content that you put out on LinkedIn and on Facebook as well. So thank you. So I'm going to hand over to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your journey to the Canadian bar and to how you became Ask Mo?
Thank you very much for that pleasant introduction. I definitely feel welcomed, and I'm very excited to be here tonight. I'm hoping that, we can all gain something from this session. And if at any point you guys can't hear what I'm saying, maybe in the chat session, just let me know and I'll speak out, or just make sure everything is going well. Yeah, so like you said, my name is Mo. My full name is Moyosore. And I'm a lawyer licensed to practice law here in Ontario and also in Nigeria. So tonight I'm going to talk about 10 things I badly want to tell internationally trained lawyers. And I don't want this to be a speech. So I'm going to tell you guys about my story. And as I go through each point, I will say each point and then talk about my story, so you guys can follow. Yeah, so before I get into the first point, I moved to Canada in 2016, September 2016, and I literally just completed my last exam at the Nigerian Law School, and then the next day I flew to Canada, and then I started my master's degree at the University of Toronto. Now, I was very strategic about this. I knew that I, wanted to pursue a master's at U of T. So I already started applying for my, for several master's programs. I think about a year before, or about a year and a half before. And so I knew that I definitely wanted to go to U of T, because I literally just Googled best law school in Canada, and the University of Toronto came up, and I was like, that's the one, like I'm going there, right? And so I applied to U of T, University of Ottawa, and several other law schools, and that's just how I got into U of T. Okay, so the first thing I would like to talk about tonight is that immigration and requalification go hand in hand. And I'm sure, someone here is wondering, what does that even mean? And I already, started talking about immigration by explaining how I was able to come into Canada, which was through the study route. Now, I find that a lot of internationally trained lawyers are really focused on just one part of the licensing process, which is the NTA exams. And I've had several conversations with people, and it seems like people are so focused on the NTA exams, which isn't a bad thing, but the licensing process is way more than the NTA exams. You write the NTA exams, you need to article, you need to write the bar exams, depending on the province on which you decide to practice in, and then you get called to the bar, right? But a lot of people are so focused on the NTA exams. Another thing people don't consider is as an internationally trained lawyer, you have to immigrate to Canada, right? So that's one part that local lawyers don't have to deal with, because they're already in Canada. So you can either choose to come in through the PR route, so that's the permanent residency route, or you can either choose to come in to study, and there are several other routes as well. But in my case, I came in through the study route, and I had to understand that coming in as an international student meant that I was going to pay 3 times the tuition that local students paid. So I had to put that into consideration, as opposed to if I came in as a permanent resident, I would have paid the same tuition that local students pay. So that's something I want internationally trained lawyers to sort of consider, what immigration route works best for you. If you are financially capable of paying international fees, or if you don't have the money, probably coming in as a PR might just work better for you. So I always encourage people to just consider everything. And back to what I was saying about a lot of people focusing on the NCA exams, I find that people don't take the next steps they need to take to get like a good articling position. And so once they're done with the NCA exams, it now becomes, what's next? What do I need to do? Do I need to get an exemption? Do I need to do the law practice program? Do I need to article? What resources do I need? People don't really take the time to plan and help themselves, in order to go into the next step of the licensing process. So that's the first thing I would say. Just as an internationally trained lawyer, consider immigration, especially if you don't live in Canada, and requalification. Always, it's a complete package. It's never one or the other. Like, it goes hand in hand. And also, I think I'll just like to say that if anyone has any questions, just let me know. You can probably just type it in the chat section, and I'll just go through the questions probably when I'm done. So the next thing I would like to talk about is you have to be comfortable with failing, and like failing is all part of the process. And I know that a lot of people don't like to hear this because honestly nobody likes to fail. Like who likes to fail? Nobody. But failing is part of the process, and failing can come, in different ways. It might be you failing an NT exam, or you failing the bar exams, or you getting rejected after, applying to for an articling position. So it comes in different ways, and I'm not saying you should work towards failing, or make a conscious effort to fail. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that failing comes with the process sometimes, and if that happens, you should be comfortable with failing. And I'll give you an example. So when I started my master's program at the University of Toronto, I took some of my NCA courses during my LLM program. So I took Canadian administrative law, and I also took, I think, professional responsibility. And so I took criminal law, constitutional law, and foundations. I wrote those ones through the NCA, while I did the other two while I was doing my master's program. And the first NCA exam I wrote, I failed, and that was my criminal law exam. And it wasn't, I didn't take it very, very lightly. It was such an awful process, because that was the first exam I was writing, outside my master's program. And then I failed. And then I also wrote my barrister exam. I thought I had gotten over the whole failing process. And then I failed my barrister exam. and then, you know, I took the solicitor exam again, and then I failed. And I applied for several articling positions, and then, you know, I kept getting rejection letters. No, no, sorry, no. You know, we're moving on with several other candidates. And I just had to get to a point where you know, I understood that failing or failure is part of the process, and it's okay to fail. You know, once you fail, you take some time to reevaluate yourself and figure out what you didn't do right, and, you know, how you can be better. And, you know, don't let failure just hold you back, you know, from making or taking the right, or, you know, the necessary steps you need to take. So the third thing I'm going to, you know, talk about is network. Like, networking is so important, and it is very, very necessary, you know, especially in the legal field. And sometimes I feel like when people hear networking, they feel like it's about you walking up to someone and introducing yourself and putting yourself out of your comfort zone. And while that is part of networking, that's not all networking is about. Like, if you're attending this event right now, you are networking, right? So even just reaching out to someone randomly, like you did, you know, on LinkedIn, you know, talking about how you've been following my work and how you would like for me to come here, you know, and speak tonight, that is networking. So networking cannot be overemphasized. Like, it is so important, you know, attending events, you know, reaching out to people, attending webinars, attending seminars, putting yourself out of your comfort zone, especially if you're an internationally trained lawyer, because you're coming from a community or a different culture, you know. So you want to know how people here, interact with one another, especially before COVID hit, you know, like, we would have like seminars in person, and you would learn the dress code, you know, how to speak to other people, how to interact with other people, you know. And that's very, very important for the type of career, you know, legal career that we are in. And there was something that happened at the University of Toronto. They usually have this event where they bring, you know, different lawyers that practice in different areas, you know, to just come and speak. And there was this lady who came. I had registered for the event, and I was the only one who, you know, showed up for the event. And it was supposed to be an event of about 20 people, and I was the only one who showed up. And we had such an amazing time. We spoke, and she gave me her business card. And there was a time when I needed a favor, you know, I was stranded and I needed something. And I remembered, oh, you know, this lawyer actually told me to email her, like, if I needed anything. And so I sent her an email, you know, and she responded, and she was so happy to help. You know, that is one of the perks of, you know, networking. If I had decided to stay back home, you know, I didn't feel like being social, I just wasn't feeling it, you know, I wouldn't have had that advantage to myself. And, you know, networking just helps you, you know, expand your reach, and it helps you just meet more people. And I know, this is the second time I'm saying this, like, learning about the culture, it is so important. Like, I'm Nigerian and I'm from Nigeria, and, you know, the way things work there, it's so different from the way things, you know, work in Canada, right? I noticed that whenever I went for events before COVID, you know, like, people would always have small talks about, like, the weather, about, like, their pets, about, like, vacation, about holidays. And, like, in Nigeria, like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares, like, what pets you have. Nobody cares about, like, the vacation. Like, I didn't care as well until I, like, started going for events. I was like, oh, like, everyone, like, talks about, like, their vacation and the holidays is so important here, you know. And I, like, started making more efforts, you know, like, to make small talks, you know, about these things that I wouldn't necessarily talk about, you know. So that's one of the advantages of networking. It helps you become aware of your environment. Like, you're in a different space, so you need to, you know, learn how things work in that space as well. So the fourth thing I would like to talk about, and this is probably the most important thing I'm going to say tonight, is article, article if you can, because it is so I find that was one of the best decisions, I ever made, throughout my licensing journey. So once I completed even right before I completed my NCE exams, I was still doing my master's program at U of T. And I said to myself, I said, I'm going to apply for articling positions. And guess what? Like, I got so many negative comments, like, don't apply. You haven't completed the NCE exams. You don't even, have what it takes. You don't have like any legal Canadian experience. Like, what are you thinking? Do not apply. And, everyone, I had one of my professors literally tell me that, like, don't apply. Like, they're not looking for you, like, your type of people. Like, don't apply, like, I had her tell me that. And, like, once you're done with your master's, like, just go back to Nigeria. Like, I'm sure Nigeria needs you more. I'm sure you wouldn't even, pass the NCE exams, let alone the bar exams. And, like, that was just one of many negative comments, that I got. But that goes back to my second point, which is you have to be comfortable with, and also you have to be comfortable with hearing negative comments, because not everyone will believe in, like, your ability. Not everyone will believe in what you can do, or what you are capable of doing. So you need to, first of all, believe yourself. And when you choose to do something, like, you need to go for it. So I ignored everything everyone said, and I did apply for articling positions. And I remember on that day, like, I had applied, I think, to about 10 positions, and I was exhausted. Like, the city of London was I had like a list of 10 places I was going to apply to. I wanted to work for the government, so I was looking at like cities and municipalities and the AG's office and positions in that space. So I was so tired, but I was like, what, I'm let's keep doing this. And so I applied for the position at the city, and that was the only interview that I got. And now I work for the City of London. So don't, like, it's sometimes it can be very discouraging, but like, just hang in there and like keep pushing. So back to, sorry, I digressed a bit. Sometimes I tend to be like a motivational speaker and I just like keep going in. But yeah, back to my point on articling, right? It is so important. And like, during my articling rotation, that was when I argued my first motion. I remember like one of the lawyers just coming into the office, and she was like, oh, like, you have to argue this motion and all of that. And I remember going into the courthouse, and I was so scared. Like, I was really scared, never done anything like that before. But like, I did it, and the motion was in my favor, right? So articling is that time when you are going to do things. Like, it's taking you out of the law school space, and it's real war. Like, you have to practice, you have to argue a motion, you have to draft a defense, you have to draft a statement of claim, you have to do things. And how are you going to know how to do things if you don't do them, right? So I find that a lot of internationally trained lawyers, I know that it's very difficult, for ITLs to find an articling position. I know, I've been there myself. And as a result of this, people get so discouraged, and, they end up applying for an exemption, or they end up, excuse me. Yeah, so they end up applying for an exemption. And once they get exempted, they find it very difficult to find jobs, and they end up starting their own law practice. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with you starting your own law practice, but there's everything wrong if you're starting your own law practice without proper experience, without the necessary skills and resources. Like, if you're an internationally trained lawyer, let's say you have experience from your home country, well, that is great. It's different from Canada, right? It's different. So it's, and most people end up doing or practicing an area of law that they aren't necessarily interested in, but that's just what's available, right? Like that's just what they find, and they end up doing that, you know. So I just always, I would advise or recommend you to push for articling and don't give up. Like even if you've gotten like 20 rejection letters, like just keep pushing, right? Or you do the law practice program. That's another, you know, fantastic program. I'm sure we all know about it from Ryerson University, you know. That's another fantastic option that's available. But I really don't I don't advocate for getting an exemption, especially if you don't have any legal experience. For example, in my case, I didn't have any legal experience. Like I said, I finished law school from Nigeria. I didn't practice, and I came to Canada straight. So I feel like it would have been disastrous for me to get an exemption and start my own law practice, you know, without any proper legal experience. So that's the fourth point I would like to make. The next point I would like to make is, as an ITL, you know, your previous work experience is valid and it serves as transferable skills. Now, I know a lot of people who have experience working abroad, you know, or summering abroad, interning abroad, or even, you know, working as a lawyer abroad. And I've heard that a lot of people, some people don't think their experiences abroad are valuable. They are valuable. And while I know that, you know, getting a Canadian experience is good, and you know, I always recommend that as well. While I was doing my master's, I worked as a legal assistant at a law firm, you know, and that obviously opened my eyes to see like how things work in Canada. So obviously I would recommend, you know, working as a legal assistant, a law clerk, or just getting familiar, you know, with the legal community before you get called to the bar. But having said that, your work experience as an ITL or as an internationally trained lawyer is valid. So for example, let's say a lawyer who worked at, you know, or for the Supreme Court in their home country for 10 years, you know, even though the Supreme Court in that country is different from the Supreme Court of Canada, there are transferable skills you can, you know, bring and also add to your resume and your cover letter as well. For example, you know, I'm sure you probably did some form of research, right? As a lawyer here as well, or as an article student, you're going to be doing lots and lots of research, right? So that's a transferable skill. You know, let's say you argued or you did a trial before the Supreme Court or whatever, or before the High Court, you know, that's also transferable skill as well. You know, doesn't necessarily need to be the same court, but you have oral advocacy skill, you know, which can be transferred into your resume. So I don't want you to think that because, you know, you don't necessarily have any Canadian legal experience that it's over. No, it's not over. If you have experience abroad, you can transfer those skills, you know, into your resume or into your cover letter here in Canada as well. And this leads me to my next point. I already spoke about this, which is get Canadian work experience and Canadian education. Now, I already mentioned that, you know, when I was doing my master's, I worked as a legal assistant and all of that. I find that it's very helpful because you get exposed to, again, the culture. The culture is so important. It's super important, right? You get exposed to the culture. You get exposed to how things work. Let me tell you guys a funny story. So there's something called African time. And that means when let's say something is supposed to start at 2, like nobody shows up until 4. That's just how it works, right? So, and like I grew up like showing up late for events and all that, you know. So coming here, I thought, oh, it's probably the same thing. Like when they say something starts at 2, it probably doesn't start until like 4. And so my first class at U of T, the class was for like, I think 8. And I was like, who's like, you gotta be kidding me. Who's going to show up for a class at like 8 a.m.? So, like I woke up at 8 and then I showed up to class around like 9, and like everyone was seated. The professor was like already teaching. Like I came in really late and I was like, oh my God, like Canadians are so serious about time. Like once they say 8, like 8 a.m. means 8 a.m., right? So that was also something I learned, like working as a legal assistant, right? Like I had to be at work on time, like 9 a.m. was 9 a.m., so that's also something, that you can learn once you get like Canadian work experience. Also, getting Canadian education, a lot of people have several opinions about this, but I'm speaking from my experience, and I believe that especially if you are an internationally trained lawyer, just coming from your home country, maybe you came in as a permanent resident and you're trying to get into the legal field, it's best to go back to school, just do something, get some form of Canadian education, because once an employer picks up your resume and they see, oh, this person actually has schooled in Canada. Okay, this person has made an effort, it shows that you have made an effort. And it's just something, it's something they are familiar with, unlike maybe let's say you have an undergrad from a university that they're not really familiar with in your home country, that's, you need to give them something to work with. That's just what I'm saying. And so getting Canadian education and Canadian work experience, it doesn't necessarily need to be the best job, but, something that you can transfer, even volunteering as well. You can volunteer with a non-for-profit, you can volunteer with a law firm, just showing people that you have made an effort and that you are taking this thing seriously. I feel like that's what that does, getting a Canadian education and work experience or volunteering. So my next point is, I've lost count of how many points I have given. 6. Okay, 6, perfect, thank you. Okay, yeah, so the next thing I want to say is, do not rush your season. And I know this may sound very cliche, and like I said, sometimes I tend to sound like a motivational speaker, but like, do not rush your season. And I know that while sometimes we want to like get it done, like just write the NC exams, write the bar exams, article, and just do everything. Why? So that I can, start practicing. Guess what? You have the rest of your life to practice, right? Like I got called to the bar last year and I've been practicing for a year, and I'm like, I'm going to keep practicing until I retire, right? And that's a long time. That's a really long time, So just like take your time and like don't rush the process. Like if you feel like you're not capable of like writing the 2 exams at once, the barrister and the solicitor exam at once, like spread it apart. Like write the barrister exam first and then write the solicitor exam first. You don't have to combine both. If you feel like you want to take 1 year off, to like travel abroad, and explore and just get some more experience, that is fine. Like everybody's journey is different, and if there was something I could have changed, I would have maybe just taken things a bit slowly. I would have spread things out. I wouldn't have rushed the process like I did, because it can become very, very overwhelming and very consuming, and like it's very stressful. I remember, I think it was 2018 or 19, I was super stressed. I was so stressed. Like I was writing the bar, I was articling, I didn't have a life, I didn't have a social life. Like I was always studying, and sometimes it's just too much, it's just too much. So I always advise people to like, don't rush the process, just enjoy the season, just take it as it comes, if you apply for articling positions now and get rejected, it's fine. Like, revamp your resume, revamp your cover letter, revamp your writing sample, do things differently, speak to people, find out what mistakes they made and apply that to yourself, So this is one mistake I made, and I'm like saying this to someone here, like today: don't rush the season, just enjoy the process. And the next thing I would like to say is that you are unique and you bring like a different flavor to wherever you find yourself, And I also, when I typed this out, I was like, this really a point? Like, can you really make this a point? And I was like, yes, I can. Because we're all different people, right? And sometimes, like, I was very guilty of this. Like, sometimes you tend to compare yourself to other people. Like, oh my God, this person passed the bar. And, like, this person is practicing right now. And this person passed the NC exams, but like, I didn't pass. This person got an articling position with like this firm, but like, I didn't get that. It's sometimes we get caught up, comparing ourselves with other people. But we are like all unique beings, and we are all different, right? And irrespective of wherever you find yourself, like, you need to understand that you bring like a different perspective and a different flavor, to wherever you find yourself. So don't compare yourself to any other person. Don't compare your licensing journey or your licensing process to any other person's journey or process, because we're all different and we are all, different people. And I remember when I started practicing at the City of London, I would go for like events, and like I would be literally the only Black person at that event, or like go to court and literally the only Black person. And for the longest time, I felt is this a problem? Like, what, why am I the only Black person here? But later on, I understood that like I'm different and I'm unique, and I bring like a different perspective to whatever is going on here, So, and that has really, helped me in my legal career as well. So the next thing, or the next point I will make, is never ever get comfortable or complacent with like wherever you find yourself. And so it is so easy to, to be like I'm done. Like, I'm done with like the bar exams. I'm done with articling. I'm now called to the bar. Like, I'm done with self-development. Like, that's all. That's it. Like, bye. No, like, never, ever, ever get comfortable with like wherever you are right now, because there's always room to get better. There's always room to develop yourself. As a lawyer, that's why we have CPDs, right? You attend CPD events and you get updated with what's going on, the latest law that is out there, or the latest development, the latest practice directions. These are things you need to always be updated about. And it doesn't necessarily need to do with law, so like just wherever you find yourself, like at work, just don't get comfortable. There's always room for development. There's always room to get better. If for example, I attend Toastmasters, right? And like the first time I heard about it, I was like a club that would literally help me get better with public speaking. Like, yeah, right. But like, I later took interest. I was like, okay, let me check out, what they're actually doing. And I attended, as a guest. I was like, oh, not bad, like, and I would literally sign myself up to give speeches when I don't feel like giving speeches, just so I can practice and just get better at speaking. I've used a lot of M's and filler words today, so I'm more conscious of the way I'm speaking. I'm more conscious of the amount of M's and R's and filler words I'm using while I'm speaking, unlike, before I joined Toastmasters. So that's another way to push myself out of my comfort zone and not get complacent. Trust me, ain't nobody loves like public speaking. I'm sure there are people out there who love public speaking, but like the average person doesn't like to be put on the spot. But I put myself on the spot like every Thursday. I don't like it, but it's for my own personal development, you know. So those are examples of things you can do to make yourself better, you know, at whatever it is that you're doing. Yeah, so that's my, is that my like 8 points? 9. Oh, okay, almost there, almost there. Okay, okay. So the last point. Okay, I guess I had more points. Okay, I'll join them together. The last points I have are, the first one is you need to learn how to celebrate small wins, and you need to learn how to take a break, or when to take a break. Yeah, and I know, again, this might sound very cliche about celebrating small wins. For example, I took the barrister exam and the solicitor exam, and then I passed the barrister and failed the solicitor exam. I didn't know how to feel in that moment because I saw pass fail. Do I get excited, you know, or like, do I get sad? Like, I passed and failed. Like, how do I deal with that? But I had to learn to celebrate small wins. You know, I didn't pass both bar exams, but I passed one. Yay! You know, that's good news. You know, I passed one NT exam. I failed the other NT exams. I passed. At least I passed something. You know, so learn to celebrate small wins, even though you haven't really reached your goals. You know, even if you make just a tiny progress, you know, towards your goal, celebrate. You know, go out with friends and just do whatever makes you happy. Celebrate small wins, and learn when to say no, and learn when to take a break. And I know I said I had 10, but I have one more, and I'm just going to put that out there as a bonus point. So the last one is, you need to find a community of people who are like always cheering you on, because trust me, life is difficult enough. You don't want to have people who are always talking you down, or like saying negative things about you. You want to have a space of cheerleaders, a space of people who believe in you, a space of people who are rooting for you, you know. So find yourself a community. You know, for me, it was my friends and my family. They were always cheering me on, like whenever I failed something or whenever I got rejected. You know, sometimes that doubt just comes in, like, maybe I'm not good enough, or like maybe I don't have what it takes. And then you have a friend saying, nope, you do have what it takes, you are good enough, you know. So that helps, you know. Trust me, it really, really helps, you know, boost your morale and your esteem. So have a group of people who are constantly cheering you on, because it really helps with the licensing process, with the licensing journey, with your legal career as well. Because even when you are a lawyer, like, there's some files that are just like, and like, you just feel like you aren't doing it the best, or like things don't go your way. You know, you need to have someone or people who tell you, you know, like, you're killing it, like you're killing it every single day. That always helps. So I think those are all the things. I initially started out with 10, but I ended with 11. I hope that's fine. Yes, all the 11 things I have to share. Yeah.
Thank you, Mo. That was incredible. Like, wow. And a bonus point. We all got a bonus point there as well. Everyone came here hoping they'd get 10, and there you go, you got a bonus one. So celebrate the bonus one, right? That's a small win there for all of us tonight. We got a bonus point from Mo. Such great points. I'm sure many of you have heard some of those points said by other people, but hearing Mo's take on it and her journey behind why those are her key takeaways, I hope that resonated some way for all of you. But does anyone have any questions for Mo? Because really, like, you guys hear from me all the time. I really want to like help you guys talk to Mo. So does anyone have a question for Mo? Does anyone have any points to add? I mean, Mo's journey is pretty impressive, and she has a YouTube channel, guys, right? With quite a lot of followers. I mean, this is a big deal in like internet space. You know, she's building a personal brand. I mean, you could ask her questions around that as well, because that's quite unusual. Not many lawyers have a YouTube channel. So it's something a little bit different there. But Mo, tell us, whilst everyone's thinking of their questions, tell us what it's like now, being at the City of London, being an associate, what is that like for you day to day? How are you finding it? How are you finding it with COVID? With everything looking a little bit different? And are you finding now that you're not necessarily the only Black lawyer in the room anymore? Are there more different colors and faces and shapes and sizes?
So I'll start with the first part of the question, which is, what is it like being a lawyer like right now? I find it very interesting actually, because a lot of my work, it's different, right? It's not the same thing every day. So I practice civil litigation particularly, but I do other things as well. So I am a lawyer to different service areas at the city: housing, sewer, engineering, and several other departments as well. So today I might be doing discoveries. Tomorrow I might be attending like a committee meeting, and like giving legal advice. The next day I might be doing something for housing. So it's so different, and I like that it's very versatile. And literally I'm also a prosecutor, even though I don't prosecute right now, but like you can literally get called upon to like prosecute some offenses and all of that. So it's very different. I like that I'm not really sure what's next, like it's very interesting, and that keeps me on my toes. I'm not getting very complacent, and I'm always researching, like always trying to figure out like what the answer to what the next task is, which is very good. So I like that about my job. So that's just like a brief summary of like what my day-to-day life is as a lawyer. But now that there's COVID, like, COVID really, really messed up a lot of things, honestly, because like I remember going, like just traveling, taking the train, going for discoveries in Toronto, and just like there's this, I've forgotten the name of the space where we would have discoveries, but like the food was amazing, and just like going there to like have good food and meet other people, or like going to some other city somewhere else for discoveries. That was nice, because I wasn't always in my office. I go to the courthouse today or go somewhere else, the next day. So I sort of missed that part. Right now, everything is virtual. So like discoveries, motions, whatever, everything is virtual. So it's not as interesting, but yeah, like I'll take that over nothing. So and about the other part, still being the Black lawyer, no, I'm actually seeing more Black people, in the legal space in London, and it's very exciting. It's very, very exciting seeing more people. I advocate. I'm like, guys, apply for acting positions in London. London isn't that bad. It's not as fancy as Toronto, but like it's not that bad, So I'm seeing more people, just apply for positions in London, and more people are coming into London, and that's very refreshing to see. Yeah.
That's great. I love the fact that despite this year being incredibly strange and not at all what I think you imagined this year would look like back in January, you're actually still seeing all the benefits, and you're seeing all those small wins still, and seeing all these different people now applying that maybe wouldn't have applied in the past, which is fantastic to hear. So we are getting questions coming through. So I just want to open this up to everybody on the questions. So I'm just literally going to go down in order, because it kind of actually sounds like everybody's questions are in like a time order, which actually kind of is helpful. So Sarah, do you want to go first and ask Mary your question?
Sure. Thank you very much. So thank you for your speech. It was very inspiring today. So I was wondering, like, if you were to redo a master, would you do the same master, or would you do the other one at University of Toronto? I think they have a part-time master program as well. So I don't know if you were to be interested in this program instead. I don't know.
Okay, I didn't hear a part of your question. So you are asking if I were to redo my master's degree, would I do the same?
Yeah, University of Toronto, or like, because I know at the University of Toronto, I think they have also a part-time program, master program that allows like lawyers to work at the same time. Or would you be interested to do this one instead, or the same one that you did?
I think I would have still done the same one, because I had the opportunity to work because as an international student, you can work for 20 hours. That's like the maximum amount of time we're allowed to work. So I was still working, so that I was able to get that work experience. And I liked the master's program that I did. I did the general LLM program. So I basically had a bunch of courses to pick from, and I just played around. Like, it was so much fun because I literally picked all the courses that I liked, and I tailored everything towards international law. So I did courses like international human rights law, international courts and tribunal, international criminal law, private international law. So I did lots of international law courses, and I also picked administrative law and professional responsibility because I was trying to knock off those exams from the NCA. So I liked it because it gave me the ability to choose and like create my own master's program. Yeah, so I would still go for the same master's program. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. Juan, do you want to ask your question?
Thank you for the great tips that you're giving us. I was wondering about when you were talking about networking, what do you think about cold calling or cold emailing as an internationally trained lawyer, especially when looking for articling positions?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself there. Yeah, thank you very much for your question. I do not recommend cold emailing. I don't recommend doing that, especially because now that I'm a lawyer, I get lots of emails, right, from people. I'm giving this advice, like network, email people, reach out to people. Now I'm getting those emails. And the thing is, a lot of the people you're going to be reaching out to are super busy. They're like busy people, and people who probably only have like 5 seconds to read each email. So I wouldn't recommend cold emailing. I would recommend like being intentional, about like emailing these people or networking. Like, you need to be very clear and concise, and you need to also, in as much as I'm advising networking and reaching out, you need to be strategic about it. Like, you need to be intentional about it. Know what you want. If you're interested in practicing immigration law, for example, I don't advise you like cold calling like every law firm in London, like even business law firms that practice business law and like all the other areas of law you're not interested in. I would advise you being strategic about it, being like straight and concise about it, and also sometimes putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and think about it, like if someone was reaching out to me and the person sent me this email, or the person called me, in such and such manner, and saying there, or let me give an example. This is not emailing or calling or whatever, but I know someone who applied for an articling position, and they applied to, let's say, an immigration law firm, and their cover letter says, I'm looking forward to working with, got the name of the law firm wrong, and called it like a business law firm. Obviously, the person had sent out like a bunch of cover letters to different law firms and wasn't careful enough to edit that part out. So things like that, little things like that can just sort of disqualify you. So I don't recommend cold emailing or cold calling. Rather, I recommend just being intentional and being strategic about like reaching out and networking whenever you're doing. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's always so hard, right, Mo, how to network, especially when we're doing it virtually right now. And for those people who are also trying to network before maybe they arrive in Canada as well. And I'm sure you get this as well, where you get law students, Canadian law students as well, so not just internationally trained lawyers, but they reach out to you, and it's obvious they are ultimately going to want a job, right? And you kind of know that anyway, but it's the emails that come to you where they don't necessarily say outwardly, I'm looking for a position, but they tell you in 4 or 5 lines, because as you say, keep it concise, and they say, hey, I saw you posted something on LinkedIn, and it really resonated with me what you said. I thought it would be great to connect with you, and then I can follow more of your tips. And that's maybe an example of where you were saying, like, be strategic in how you're connecting with people and give them a purpose behind why you're connecting with people, right? And then ultimately, when you start building that relation up with that person, it naturally will come up about jobs.
Yes.
Is that kind of where you were coming from with the kind of being strategic, being concise, and building that relationship with somebody, and doing it early on in the process, because then you have that time to build that relationship up, so that then when you are in a position to actually begin articling or getting close to beginning articling, you've already got that relationship with the person where you're now a known quantity and you're not doing that cold emailing.
Yes, exactly. And I also don't recommend people reaching out, like the first email saying, hi, can you be my mentor? Like the first email, I don't recommend that. Like once I see such emails, I don't even respond, because like I don't know you, I don't have any background about you, I have no idea, like what your experience is. And so, that's not being strategic, just asking upfront to be, asking me upfront rather to be your mentor. Like I also don't recommend doing that as well. But, everything you said about being strategic and how to go about it, absolutely agree with that.
Fantastic. I'm glad I'm understanding. I'm learning this too, because honestly, I failed at this. I was terrible at this as well. I definitely did the cold emailing and was like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Can you give me a job? And I didn't know anything about the person, anything about the law firm. I was that person who sent a cover letter out and used the wrong firm's name and everything. Like, I've been there, done that. Yeah. Learn from our mistakes, everybody. Param, you have a couple of questions. So do you want to ask your questions?
Yep, sure. Thank you, Siobhan. And thank you, Mo. Really love the energy and the passion. Thank you so much for that. So I have 2-part question. So what do you think worked for you when you got your articling position at the City of London? Like, did you change something as compared to your previous applications, like something on your resume, your cover letter, or did you improvise in a different shape, form altogether?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. I think because I've had several conversations with like employers and and some other people as well. And I think what employers or like what people are looking for is just the sincerity of your heart. Like people don't want to be, I don't have the right word. I won't use the word coming to my mind, but people want you to be sincere with them. People want to see that you have passion, right? And I remember in my cover letter, the one I used to apply for the City of London, and even during my interview, because I'm an internationally trained lawyer, I had to sort of explain my background, right? Like they don't understand it, where I'm coming from, my past legal experience, my past legal education, right? Is Nigeria a common law country, or is it a civil law country? They need to understand that. So these are some of the things you need to make them understand in your cover letter, that listen, I have written the NC exams, and the NC exams are sort of equivalent to a JD, I'm not saying it's the same, but just let them see that you have the basic understanding of someone who did undergrad or who went to law school in Canada, right? And I remember another thing that came up was the fact that I volunteered at an NGO in Nigeria, right? I'm working for the government, having a passion to serve the people, how I was able to translate my experience from working for the NGO into, an articling position at the city. So just me bearing out my passion, like I served, worked at an NGO for women and kids, and I worked with their legal department, helped them do research, and I was just basically honest. And even during the interview, so the truth is, on paper, almost everyone's resume looks the same. Have you guys noticed? Like, bring every law student's resume. It looks the same, like experience, work, education, almost everyone can speak French. It looks the same. So they're looking for something that makes you stand out. You need to stand out from a pool of articling students, so I feel like for me, and even I sort of got that sense from the interview, and like from even when I got called back, like that was what made you stand out. Like your experience was different and your passion was pure, it was raw. Like we could see that you actually wanted to work for the government, and you just weren't picking the government as a second choice because the big law firms didn't take you, so little things like that, they need to just see that in your resume. And for ITLs, it is so important to explain that you have written your NC exams and you have the basic understanding or basic knowledge as someone who went to law school in Canada, so I feel like those were some of the things that I did that sort of changed the game for me. I'm trying to read the other part of the, I think I answered everything together. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, Param.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good question, Param. Shweta, we're going to come to your question, but I just want to continue on the articling track whilst we're on it. So, Inni, do you want to ask your question?
I think she's breaking out.
Inni, did it break? I can ask if you want.
I was wondering if you applied outside the usual LSO cycle for your articling position at the City of London.
Thank you very much, Inni, for your question. And no, I didn't. I applied, I think I applied during the LSO cycle. So I know that for firms outside Toronto, they usually start recruiting articling students earlier than, bigger, excuse me, than bigger cities like Toronto. So I think it was around April, May, that was when I applied. And that's like the usual cycle for recruiting articling students. And then I think June and July is for like Toronto and Ottawa and the other bigger cities. So I did apply during the LSO cycle. But having said that, their positions will always come up. Like I see some positions, or rather at the time, I saw that some positions were getting posted around October. After the LSO cycle, I saw some positions were getting posted around November, December, but there were not as many, as the positions that were posted during the LSO cycle. So yeah, I did apply during the usual LSO cycle.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, and I think this year as well, it's going to look a little different. So
yeah,
the cycles are going to look a little different to maybe when you and I both applied, in that COVID has had a knock-on effect with hiring practices, not just at the articling student level, but also at the associate and partner level as well. So I think we're going to find that the cycle maybe isn't quite the same as usual. So it's not going to be everybody apply in May, June, July. There's going to be ad hoc positions coming up throughout the year as law firms need extra people. And I think that's where it goes back to your networking Mo from earlier, is that then you'll be the first people who hear about those ad hoc positions, because it may be they don't necessarily advertise them in the traditional manner, because it's so sporadic, and they're going to go to people that they have a connection with.
Yeah. Just to add to what you said, like I remember when I think we're looking for an associate or an articling student, and the people who had reached out to me, you know, who had connected with me, like I let them know, like, we're like sending your application like ASAP, right? Because this isn't going to be advertised, you know. So that's another important part of networking. And going back to what you said about things just being a bit different this year, I know the length for articling has reduced from I think 10 months to 8 months, you know. So things are changing, and definitely like positions would just keep being posted, you know, as law firms need, you know, articling students. Yeah.
Hopefully that puts everyone's mind at ease this year. There will be positions. Hang in there. You know, your resiliency is going to come forward. Shweta, we're going to ask your question, and then I think because we're running out of time, Kenny will come to you for the last question.
I was actually hoping to pass a comment on what Mo just said, not actually a question. So it's actually an interesting story, and I totally agree with the don't really apply during the usual recruitment cycle. So something interesting happened when I was sending in articling applications. I had applied everywhere, applied to Ontario, applied to BC, name the province. And I just decided to apply for summer students program at Northern Rose and Dentons, Canada. And I realized, even though I was just doing it to just kind of get a feel, kind of understand their interview process and all that. And even despite the fact that it was a summer student position I was applying for, I was able to kind of communicate my background and also made them understand what I've done before, what I'm currently doing in Canada. And I ended up getting an articling position instead of a summer student position, which was a more like a confirmation that trying to apply within this, you know, usual cycle is kind of disadvantageous to us because the system is more or less rigged against us, if I can use that word. So we just have to find an opening for ourselves.
Good story, and congratulations, Kenny. Well done. Shweta.
Hey, no, first of all, you're an amazing speaker, and I couldn't help but Google you as we opened, and Siobhan shared about your YouTube video. So I was really fascinated because you've done so much, and then you have the YouTube video. And I think we all have, you know, this sort of like passion that we want to follow. We just don't know where to start. So I was curious if you had any advice for people who want to start a side hustle. You know, it can be like anything, like a yoga studio or I don't know. I don't have an idea. So one would be, how did you like identify what your side hustle was going to be? And then secondly, like, do you have any tips for like time management, staying focused, and then also following through, right? Not dropping out after a couple of months.
Thank you very much, Shweta, for your question. That's a very, I'm excited to answer that question. Okay, so about having a side hustle, how I started my YouTube channel, I was getting a lot of questions about the licensing process. I did, when I got called to the bar, I did a post on LinkedIn and it went viral, like, and my inbox was full. And I wanted to help, you know, I wanted to really help, but I couldn't answer everyone's message. It became very overwhelming. And so I said, you know what, I think I'll just start a YouTube channel. So whenever anyone is asking me this question, I can direct them to the YouTube channel. Same thing with the book I wrote, the NTA Startup Hack. I think I'll just write a book. So if anyone is asking me for this information, I'm directing them. That way I'm managing my time properly, because I can't spend all my time, you know, online trying to respond to everyone. So that was how I started the YouTube channel. And as I started, like, I realized that I really like talking, like I enjoy talking, and I talk at work, you know, discoveries, whatever, go to court, and then I come back, do YouTube and all of that. And I just enjoy it, you know. And so it became something. I started doing more videos about Canada, because like I started getting more questions about wanting to relocate to Canada and all of that stuff, life in Canada. And so I started like expanding my YouTube channel. So that was how I started. And about advice, me having any advice for people who want to start a side hustle, the first advice is just start. Like literally just start. And you know, that's why I said you need to have people in your corner, like always cheering you on. I was so nervous starting a YouTube channel because I was like, oh my god, I'm a lawyer, like people are like might not take me seriously, you know, like I'm doing YouTube, I have funny thumbnails, but like that's just who I am. If we have discoveries and you think, oh, she did like a funny video yesterday, well, like that's not who I am today. I'm a lawyer today, and you have to deal with who I am today, you know. So that's just start, especially if it's something you really, really love doing, because guess what, like if you don't start, like it's going to keep eating you up, and guess what, someone else will start, and you know, someone else will be living your dream. So just start. That's like the first advice. And once you start, another thing I would say is reach out to people who have done this thing before. You know, that's why I said never get so comfortable with where you are. Don't be too complacent. Like reach out to people who are doing what you do. I've reached out to several YouTubers who do YouTube. I've gotten responses from some, and I haven't gotten responses from some, you know. So I reach out to them, ask them what's like, how do you guys do this thing? How do you guys get better? What do you guys use? What equipment do you guys use? So I reach out to people, what mistakes did you guys make, so I don't make those mistakes, you know. So reach out to people who have done what you're doing and ask them for the mistakes they made, ask them for the resources they're using. And guess what, a lot of people are happy to share. Like people are happy to help you. I've gotten you know, a lot of help from people I have reached out to. And also don't make excuses for not wanting to start. I literally record my YouTube videos with my phone. I don't have a camera, right? Because I could have said, oh, I don't have an expensive camera, or like I don't have a microphone, have a ring light and all that, but I got a tripod from Amazon, and then I record with my phone. So don't make excuses, just start. Reach out to people who have done what you like to do and learn from them. Another thing I would say is you also need about time management. Just quickly wrap this up. You need to know what's priority, right? You need to, for example, my job is priority, right? I only record on Saturdays, right? And I haven't posted a YouTube video in 2 weeks because I've been so busy, you know. So you need to understand what's priority. Is it your side hustle or your main hustle, you know? So in as much as it's your passion and all of that, you need to understand, okay, what's going to have more of my time, you know. And you also create time for what you love to do, you know. You're never too busy for what you love to do. So people ask me, how do you have time to record and edit? I work from like 8:30 to what, 5, 6, 7, 8. What happens from like 9 until 11? Like I have time in the evening, you know. On the weekends as well, I have time, you know. So sometimes you just need to delegate. You need to plan properly, you know. Just plan and delegate as well. I also have an assistant that helps me manage my social media platforms, you know, and manages like my social media emails and just everything, because sometimes it gets very overwhelming. So I hope you can, you know, just pick out tips here and there, have an assistant if that's what works for you, delegate, ask friends to help you, reach out to people, and just, you know, make sure your passion doesn't die, or your side hustle or whatever it is you really want to do comes alive. So I hope that those tips help.
Great advice. I agree, Shweta. Fantastic advice. And yes, delegate. I mean, that goes back to one of your points earlier on, which is about value your time and put your time appropriately. I think it was one of the first 6 points. I think. Going back to my notes, I took notes, guys. I very rarely take notes on things, but I took notes today, and I think that's a fantastic way to like go full circle for tonight for everything that Mo has shared with us. Mo, thank you so much for your 10 plus your bonus point tonight. They were really, really helpful, very on point. And if you aren't following Mo yet, go and follow Mo. Go and follow Ask Mo on YouTube. There are some really, really good points on there. She does talk about the value of an LLM over not doing an LLM, just taking the NCA route. That was one of my favorite videos. I refer lots of people to that when they ask me, should I do an LLM? And they're really nice. They're really short, bite-sized pieces. So they're very full of enthusiasm, full of Mo. They're just full of Mo. So definitely go follow her on there. And thank you so much, Mo. I really appreciate you sharing your time with us. Please come back again. Tell us more of your tips as you come up with them. Please spread the love with the GLC community. We really appreciate everything you're doing. And if you are at the beginning of your NCA journey, check out Mo's book. It is full of all of her tips and wisdom and sets out all sorts of things that you've probably never thought of. I definitely have never thought of some of the points that are in there. So go take a look at that, see for yourself. And Mo, thank you again. It's been wonderful to have you with us.
So much for having me. I had so much fun.
I'm so glad. And you know what? Those Toastmasters are really working. You were fantastic.
Thank you.
Really, really good. And we hope to see you all again. For those of you who are around this Thursday for Virtual Mentor Office Hours, we will be looking at the life cycle of an M&A deal, and we'll be doing a deep dive into an asset purchase agreement and whatever that is. So if you're interested in corporate law, please join us on Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see you all then. And Mo, we hope to see you again in the future.
Yeah, hopefully. Bye, guys.